Anyone who has ever been a parent will tell you how magical the first few weeks of a child's life are. After all, a parent is one of life's most difficult and rewarding experiences. In the case of 25-year-old David Holly of Stockport, England, who became a father for the second time a few weeks ago, this was exactly the case. He was, on the other hand, laying on the couch with his newborn baby in his arms. One day he woke 2 hours later to discover that something was really wrong. Indeed, David Holly, 25, was sitting up on the settee with his 4-week-old son, Carson, when he fell asleep. As soon as Mr. Holly awoke, he discovered that his son was unresponsive and had been proclaimed dead earlier that day. According to the coroner, the tragedy occurred in June and was every parent's greatest fear. 2 hours after they had fallen asleep together on their family sofa, the father of a newborn baby has relived the moment he woke up to discover his son dead in his arms. Mr. David Holly, 25, had dozed asleep while sitting up on the settee with his 4-week-old son, Carson, cuddling close to him after giving the baby a 5:30 a.m. feed in their living room. Carson was unresponsive when Mr. Holly awoke around 7:30 a.m. in his home in Stockport, Greater Manchester, and the infant was subsequently pronounced dead in the hospital, despite efforts by specialists to revive him. During an inquiry into the incident, which occurred on June 24, the coroner described it as every parent's worst nightmare, noting that experts were unable to determine the cause of the baby's death. They were informed during his hearing that Carson's mother, Beverly Winter, 24, who already has one son, suffered a tough pregnancy with him. He was born in May, and doctors said he weighed PS 5.5 and they had no reason to be concerned. After his birth, Mr. Howe, a fire and security engineer, testified at the Stockport hearing that he and his wife were very close. Beverly had a difficult pregnancy with Carson, and he was born with shorter long bones than typical, which was discovered by his doctor. We went to the doctor. They immediately set our minds at ease because of the way he was handled. The midwife was like a bull in a china shop, said the couple. They simply stated that he was a little baby. Beverly had him in her possession early when we brought him home. He was in excellent health. He had a stuffy cold a few days before he died, but it didn't affect him too much. It was only aggravating him, and that was about it. He died as a result of the cold. In spite of the fact that he was on bottles, he was a competent feeder who enjoyed his meals. His sleeping patterns were inconsistent, but he appeared to be in good health the night before he died. He seemed a little clinging and out of sorts, but we didn't go too far into it, and even when he passed away, we didn't give it too much thought. He was sleeping in a crib next to us in the bedroom, said the mother. Beverly helped him into his cot, and he seemed to sleep soundly. He woke up at 5:30 a.m. and requested to be brought up if he had his heart set on something. He was good at communicating his desire for it. He wasn't crying out for attention in an unusual way. In the meantime, I took him downstairs and found him needing a feed, so I placed him on the sofa amid the cushions where he would be safe while I gave him a bottle. I then walked back inside the house and grabbed him up and sat it with him. For a while he appeared to have calmed down and nestled up to me. I was consoling him as the bottle warmed up, and I couldn't stop myself from admiring and marveling at him. In the meantime, he fell asleep on the sofa next to me, despite the fact that I wasn't totally lying down. I was right up against his back, and he was resting his hand on my arm. I'd just fallen asleep when I woke up. I suppose I realized something was wrong because his skin color wasn't what I expected it to be. His body felt warm, but I was thinking about everything I could think about at the time. I gazed at him and thought he looked sweet for a little while. I didn't want to disturb him, but I was hoping to see a twitch or movement, which he didn't make. I was disappointed. I went upstairs and told Beverly that I thought he was having a mental breakdown. Beverly attempted to kiss his mouth, but she was unable to detect any sensation. The ambulance arrived and the paramedics attempted to revive him. In her report, pathologist Melanie Newbold stated that the findings were ambiguous and that the kid was very small for his age. He had no external injuries or marks, and he appeared to be completely normal. He was showing signs of a common cold, but he was otherwise healthy until he died. The practice of sleeping on a sofa or in a bed with adults can be dangerous, but we don't always understand why I had to document the cause of death as soon as it was determined. There's no evidence to suggest that any of these factors played a role, although they could have. Detective Inspector Graham Jenkins, who conducted the investigation into Carson's death, stated there was nothing concerning to us. I could tell it was a home that was filled with love and warmth. There were a lot of toys and photographs all throughout the place. Fortunately, there was a milk bottle out of the fridge that had been filled with water exactly as described. A crib could be found at the foot of the bed in their bedroom, and another child's bedroom, which was a gorgeous child's bedroom, could be found nearby. There is nothing in the speech that caused anyone to be concerned. He died peacefully with no signs of foul play at his death. While recording a narrative verdict, Coroner Allison Much told Mr. Hawley, "I'm sure you worry about your child every day. It must have been stressful at times, but you must have felt relief when they told you that you were small and therefore didn't have to be concerned about his size. You had him in your possession and took him home. He woke up from time to time as all small babies do, but you were doing an excellent job of caring for him. He appeared to be enjoying his meal and appeared to be settling into a routine he was developing normally, and the pathologist was unconcerned about the stage of his development. At the time of the examination, you took him to the doctor a number of times for minor issues, and each time the doctor gave you confidence that everything will be fine. I'm confident that if you had any worries in the months running up to his death, you would have sought professional guidance. His demise in the days preceding up to his death were not a source of anxiety. He had a cold, but it was nothing to be concerned about, and it didn't cause him to pass away. When you went to bed, he was sleeping next to you. He woke up at 5:30 a.m., as most newborns do, demanding attention and feeding. His father went downstairs with him and took a bottle of milk out of the refrigerator. It was necessary to get it warmed up first. As he waited, he used the opportunity to settle Carson down. Before his mealtime arrived, he calmed down almost immediately, and Dad sat down with him on the sofa, where he promptly drifted asleep. After that, there were no other issues to be concerned about at that point. A short time later, he came to, and I'm sure it was a moment you relived from your collection. Every parent's worst nightmare has come true. You were in a state of disbelief at the time, but you realized right immediately that something was wrong with the situation. The police were called, and you went upstairs to visit his mother and dialed 911. A team of paramedics arrived and transported him to the hospital. The hospital tried everything they could to save his life, but he had already passed away. This occurred on the 24th of June. According to what I've heard, there were no unusual circumstances surrounding his death, and the pathologist was unable to provide a complete explanation for how he died. There was nothing strange about his death, and there was no evidence of anyone else being involved. Unfortunately, this is a typical occurrence, particularly in youngsters under the age of 1 year. There is a small percentage of children who die abruptly and unexpectedly, for which there are no diagnostics available. At this time, the pathologist was required to state that the cause of death had been determined. In the case, Carson died of a brief and unexpected death with no apparent cause, which is a risk in small babies and children. When a child dies, in this situation, it's a tragedy beyond comprehension. Some babies do die unexpected, and no one can be held responsible for their deaths. My condolences on the loss of your child as a result of this incident. Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video and social networks. We'll be right back to you as fast as we can.